Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and that's right, I got my HasLab Sentinel here, and I just want to tell you, I think Hasbro tossed their whole HasLab model right out the window. That's right, you saw them launch the Ghostbusters HasLab, which has a minimum backer number, and it has two separate tiers. And then, if it funds within 2 weeks, you get a special figure, the Tully figure, and I think it looks awesome. But then they also announced a 22-inch Sentinel, X-Men 97 style, of course. It's not this guy, but he's got 80 points of articulation, and it's $175 rounded up a penny, and this guy was double. So here's my thinking. This guy had to have a minimum number to back it. Sure, it came with some extras and stuff like that, but now that I look, it's a couple of years in the future, inflation's up, and I'm seeing that they can do a 22-inch figure for $175. I gotta tell you, that Giant Man that they did last year was a pretty good deal, but not as good as the Sentinel, and probably about the same. Now, that HasLab also had a minimum backer number. Although it was pretty low, it was a minimum backer number. This new Sentinel, though, does not need a minimum number to be purchased for them to move it into production. It's a pay-as-you-go type thing. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that only 100 people buy it. That's nowhere near the 5,000 or 10,000 or 8,000 or whatever that they're putting these limits on these HasLab, but they're still going to move that into production. It's crazy, right? So if you think about it, for them to even say that with this Ghostbusters thing, that it needs a minimum order to move it into production, that's not necessarily true, because they're proving that they can make these things without a minimum order. So anyways, the counter argument to it is going to be that it's so popular that everybody's going to buy it, and it's going to sell over 10,000. Yeah, okay, maybe, but that's not the argument, because there's no guarantee that 10,000 people are going to buy it. You and I most probably think that that's going to happen, but it's no guarantee. Look at what happened to Super 7 with their Tiamat. They had a time release. They closed it. It's no longer available, but you can still pre-order it on Amazon. Now, there's a thing that Amazon probably went and bought 5,000 of them so they can meet that minimum number. And I guarantee you that with this new Sentinel, probably Big Bad Toy Store and Entertainment Earth probably put in orders for thousands of them also, just so they can have some in stock, because when they finally come out next year, people are going to want to get them, and they're going to probably have a little bit of a markup. But the matter of fact is that Hasbro basically can just move something into production that way. So there's no need to have a HasLab anymore. They can just come out with a really cool idea and do a timed release. No HasLab necessary, no minimum number. So this no minimum number thing takes me right back to the Rancor and makes me realize that they could have moved that into production, because that was only a few hundred short of that minimum number. They just didn't want to do it because they were standing on principle. Now, here's what it does. It does two things. One, it's a super cool Sentinel, don't get me wrong. This guy's probably going to go up for sale so that I can afford to get that new Sentinel. But the second part of that means no HasLabs are off the table at this point. A little retooling and a little remodeling, and you got yourself a Hiss tank. A little retooling and a little remodeling, a new Galactus. A little retooling, an all-new Ghost is going to hit retail shelves in a couple of years. An all-new Razor Crest is going to pop up next year once we see it again in the Mandalorian movie. So nothing's off the table. None of these premium projects that were HasLab that needed minimum backer numbers are basically off the table at this point. Now, granted, this Sentinel and that Sentinel don't really look a lot alike. And I do like this new model. Don't get me wrong. I think this new model is really the way to go. So what I'm really hoping is that they come out with a new retooled Rancor and say, hey, for $175, you can get this 6-inch scaled Rancor. Because I think 6-inch scale is the scale that's really taken over. I mean, we already talked about Year of the Vehicles, especially with this Ghostbusters HasLab that's giving you a 1/12 scale, Ecto 1 or Ecto 1A. I think that's really cool. But I don't know. You guys tell me. Do you think that doing these sales and remaking a figure that went as a HasLab Would you ever buy a big figure like this as a HasLab in the future? Now that you know they can just put out a 22-inch figure for $175 on a time release, would you think that in the future that's a dream project? Oh. You either say, this is a dream project in a HasLab, or you say, I can do a timed release. But I don't think you can do both. Now that they've crossed that line, I don't think that they can sell a giant figure as a HasLab. So what is HasLab now? Because HasLabs are supposed to be dream projects. Do HasLabs basically go away and then they just replace them with these time releases? Because that might be the new model going forward. But only time will tell. So my question to you is, what do you think about this new model that they have of doing a timed release sale of something you normally would have had to do under the guise of a HasLab with a minimum backer number? Because at this point, you can go order that Sentinel and know next year you're going to get it. But with this HasLab, you don't know that until it closes because it might not fund. So which model do you like better? And are you okay with them putting out another giant figure? And would you be okay with another His tank coming out? Would you be okay with another Galactus? Would you be okay with another Ghost or another Razor Crest or something like that? Would you like them to just go to retail with the Cell Barge? Let me know in the comments what you think about this new time release and how you think it's going to affect HasLabs in the future. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, everybody. I really appreciate it. And as always, have a fantastic day.